road that way, take that and go a little bit further forward. Just stop a minute. The signal's getting worse.
Welcome back to the COVID Chronicles here at Okonjima Nature Reserve, home of the AfriCat. And joining me right now is Sarah Edwards.
Hello.
And warm welcome.
Thank you very much.
Sarah is the brown hyena researcher here at Okonjima Nature Reserve. Sarah, what are the aims and goals in regards to brown hyena research?
Okay, so Okonjima is an enclosed nature reserve, so we're fully surrounded by an electric fence. So that means
All of it?
All of it,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So it means all the hyenas, leopards,
And we're speaking
giraffe.
of 22,000 hectares?
Exactly,
so?
yeah. So these animals cannot move out and new animals cannot move in.
Okay.
So whenever you fence in a wildlife population, you need to start managing that population because emigration, immigration, the natural movements of animals are just cut off. So the goal of the brown hyena research is to try and understand their sort of altered ecology living in an enclosed reserve.
Yeah.
So we're looking at what is the population density, how many clans or family groups do we have,
Yeah.
what are their home range sizes, what happens when these young animals come to disperse. They can't leave the reserve and there's a very high density of hyenas here. So they're all fighting and struggling for spaces across the reserve. So, you know, that's the aim. And then ultimately we want to come up with informed management decisions that we can then, you know, apply not just on Okonjima, but across all enclosed reserves in southern Africa, because this enclosed model is becoming very popular for conservation, especially in South Africa. There's a lot of enclosed reserves.
All right, yeah.
There we go.
There we go.
So there's one of my beautiful brown hyenas. Come to see what's going on.
Wow. Speaking of them.
Speaking of them, yeah.
Lovely.
So you can see how the grass is so high at the moment. We're often just seeing the ear tips. They're very curious animals. They often approach like this, and especially in an area where they've never faced human persecution, they are so relaxed and habituated with people. It'd be interesting to see if it does have a collar or not. We have a number of collared hyenas.
So it could be one of those research hyenas?
It could be a research hyena. It's a bit hard to see in the long grass. Very beautiful, yeah. A lot of people think hyenas are ugly, you know, the Lion King has a lot to answer for, but I think they're actually very beautiful. Especially the brown hyena with these beautiful manes, and when the light hits them like this,
So it's out and about.
Yeah, I mean, we're in winter at the moment, so the hyenas, they start getting active earlier. So we often see them before sunset. So yeah, it's probably off trying to forage because they are scavengers. They rarely hunt. And that's another reason we think we've got so many brown hyenas here, is because we have a high leopard density, and we often see the hyenas stealing kills from the leopards or taking the scraps after they finish. So we think actually the leopards on Okonjima are beneficial for the brown hyenas, and that's why we actually have the highest recorded density of brown hyenas anywhere in their distribution on Okonjima. So it really is a place, if you want to come and see a brown hyena, this is an ideal place.
Wow. Well, we're speaking about you. Just looking at us, wondering.
We've also got the leopard box that we released the leopard out of, and I think there's some smell to that he will also be interested in now.
Yeah, he's probably thinking, what else could be there? You know, getting another smell, not only.
But you see, he's got the nose up in the air, clearly focusing in on this smell from the box now.
What's the population on Okonjima?
So we've got about 48 individuals.
48,
So it
yeah.
works out to a density of 24 hyenas per 100 square kilometers. This is
Got a good
absolutely
number.
sky high. But with this, it does cause problems. You know, we
Yeah.
do have a lot of competition. We saw last year the first ever case of infanticide recorded for wild brown hyenas. So we had two 10, 11-week-old cubs, and they were actually killed by another brown hyena.
Oh.
And we think this is a sort of population regulation.
Yeah.
They sort of self-regulate themselves now. These animals, they know there's potentially too many for the area, and they start taking out the competition.
Eliminate
Yeah,
your competitor.
yeah, which has not been recorded before in the wild. So we're learning a lot from the research that we do here.
And there's a few giraffes as well, just observing what it's doing, maybe looking at us, but it definitely would not go for the giraffes.
No. I mean, they're predominantly a scavenger.
Scavengers, yeah.
At the coast, brown hyenas, they hunt seal pups during the pupping season. So sort of, you know, over this Christmas, New Year period. But typically brown hyenas are not good hunters.
Yeah.
And this is another problem that they face across their range is sort of conflict with humans. You know, farmers see them at a carcass if a cow has died, and they see them eating, and then they automatically think, okay, no, that hyena killed that cow, so they often get shot, poisoned, snared. You know, so that's also why areas like Okonjima, these enclosed nature reserves, are becoming more and more important for species like the brown hyena, because they will end up as sort of the last stronghold for many species. So then it's even more important that we understand how to manage them properly.
Yeah.
You know, it might be that at one point we just have too many, and we need to start taking these younger animals out and translocating them to other enclosed reserves, you know, to sort of mimic that natural dispersal that they can't do for themselves. So that's a main focus also on the research at the moment, is learning at what age do these hyenas start dispersing, and what do they do? Do they manage to integrate into another clan on somewhere like Okonjima, or do they become what we call a nomadic individual, where they don't have a fixed home range, they just wander vast distances, or do they perhaps stay in their natal clan? So at the moment we are trying to collar, with GPS collars, a lot of these sub-adults that we know which clan they were born in, and start looking at all these kind of things, you know, when they disperse, what they do, if they're successful, if they then become breeding adults in another clan. Because inbreeding, again, is something that could happen here, because you've got no new genes coming in. So another focus of ours is looking at taking genetic samples, which I think we'll do later in the week with you guys, to look at, you know, how related our different individuals are, because Okonjima has actually been enclosed now for 10 years plus. So there's a lot of technical things that you have to think about once you enclose a piece of land.
We came across something really interesting, and it's actually the paste which they leave on the grasses that we have come across. There is some right here, and Sarah will just tell us a little bit more. I understand, Sarah, that these animals actually do two pastes of two different colors.
Yeah.
Can you just inform us or elaborate on us a little bit about those pastes?
Yeah, so brown hyenas are not like spotted hyenas. They don't use vocalizations to communicate. It's all olfactory or scent communication. So brown hyenas are the only member of the hyena family that's produced two different distinct pastes from their anal gland.
Interesting.
So they leave paste marks, like we're about to see now, on grass stalks, and in more desert environments it might be like thicker branches or even rocks, just any substrate where they can get this paste mark on. And it's to communicate with other clans, but also within the clan. So because brown hyenas are scavengers, but they always forage alone, that it's worth to communicate with the other clan members, like, I've been here recently, I've foraged this area, sort of don't waste your time foraging here because I've emptied it. So that's the black paste mark that they produce, which is quite a short lasting, because that information must be current.
Yeah.
And then they produce a white paste mark, which is a longer lasting, it's lipid based. And that's actually to communicate with other clans to say, like, this territory is occupied, don't come here, we live here. So as part of my research, I'm actually taking samples of these paste marks to collect genetic material.
All right.
And this is going to be analysed so that we can start answering questions about this population. What's the relatedness between different individuals? What's the genetic diversity of this population? Because obviously this has been fenced in for 10 years now, so there is a risk of inbreeding. So if we run the genetics, we'll be able to sort of get a better idea of what's going on. So I think we can take a sample of this paste mark.
All right.
I've got some tubes here. If
Anything
we can,
I can help you with?
yeah, maybe if you can hold that. These tubes are full of something called RNA later, so it preserves the genetic material. Okay, so what we don't want to do is take off the whole paste mark. We just want to take a small part of it, because we also don't want to, start erasing their olfactory communication. So we just take a small part. So we just have a normal earbud, and we just give it just roll it on. Oops. And you can see there, just a small bit.
Yeah, really small, yeah.
And then
so that's enough to do the research.
That is enough, yeah. And then we make sure this goes in the RNA later. So once we've got it in the RNA later, we just snip the end off and then attach the top. And it's always very important to label, make sure we know which area this paste mark has come from, so we know which clan it's likely to have come off. And as you can see, this is bright white, so this paste mark is extremely fresh. It was probably the hyena that we've been following now, who's just gone up the mountain behind us. As these paste marks gets older, the white actually turns firstly to a yellow, then a darker brown, and then eventually quite a dark brown. So it's good to take samples when it's nice and fresh, and then we just make sure that we label this nicely now. Well, what we will do now is we will leave this in the lab for a few hours at room temperature, and then tonight we would put it in a deep freeze, and then it can actually stay in a deep freeze for as long as we need. These samples will all be shipped to Germany.
They will be shipped to Germany?
Yeah, that's where the analysis will be done.
Oh, not here?
Not in Namibia, no. We've got a genetic specialist who's going to analyse this material for us.
Okay. Sarah, with the information that you get from the research that you do about the brown hyenas, is there any interest as well from other either organizations or farmers to find out more or know more about this animal, especially farmers, just to open up their minds and make them understand that these are actually not the animals that go for your cows or goats? Do you share that with them?
Yeah, so we have a number of sort of research outputs and way that we communicate with different sectors of the community. So we, as much as possible, we're trying to publish our research in scientific journals so that the sort of scientific and academic community has access to those findings. We also do AfriCat newsletters that go out to many different people. AfriCat is also part of the large Carnivore Management Association of Namibia. We also share our results there. And we often have, different journalists or newspapers interested in our work. So we try and, communicate that as far and as widely as we can to get these results out there, because in the end, that's the whole point of research, is to communicate your results and make sure other people are learning from it and applying what you've learned. So, as much as possible, we're doing that.
All right, Sarah, thank you for this valuable information and for the work that you do. And thank you for the viewers, and we'll see you again on our next episode.
And thanks to you guys for putting the spotlight on conservation. We appreciate it.